moving the curse through to these people, moving the anger towards them. And I thought that was a really interesting kind of thing to tackle. And I know this sounds bad, but you and we've worked with thousands of people at conventions.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, it just takes one. It takes one person.
Oh,
so
man, absolutely.
There will be a line of 1,000 people, 200 people. One person goes in through a door that he shouldn't. People follow. That adds to anger. One person cuts in a line. That gets that person, that person, that person, that person. It's a trickle-down effect. When I was a bouncer at a bar, I knew that if you break up a fight immediately, it won't spread. Because you isolate it and people's beers don't get bumped. Someone's boyfriend doesn't get whacked. Someone's girlfriend doesn't get whacked. And then they want to retaliate. So I thought that was a really interesting concept to create this movie. And another thing I love is I recently covered a movie called Session 9, which really affected me when I watched it in 2001. And so did Fallen, just the way it passes, the cavalier nature of Azazel, how mean this thing was, how it relished death. But in 2000, in Session 9, and I apologize if you haven't seen it, but there's this thing called Simon, and whatever, I'm just going to tell you. But Simon...
Everyone take your earphones off if you plan to watch this.
Session 9...
skip ahead.
It's one of my favorite horror movies because this Simon, it goes after the weak. And so it just... That gives me goosebumps. It just targets... It's this spirit, malevolent... I guess that's the right word. Spirit that just... It doesn't go after the strong. It gets in the weak. And that's such a really interesting thing, whereas this one wants to break down the strong. I think it's just two difference of two totally things that really, like, I got goosebumps all over myself right now. But it's, I don't know. I think this movie, it only has about a 40% Rotten Tomatoes score. It only made $25 million in 1998, which is kind of a big ask. And also this movie, this is a kind of a crime noir. I love the cinematography. It's in shadows. A lot of single light sources. You watch it. Sorry to interrupt, man. But a lot of the stuff that's lit, it's one light source. And it's very 1940s good man versus bad person vibe. So R-rated. So I guess you wouldn't expect this to be a hit, would you?
I think saying that it was only 40% on Rotten Tomatoes, like, that is shocking to me, because like if you like it's such a good movie. It's not super slow. It keeps you engaged. There's enough in there that will kind of pique your interest and be like, man, this is really good. Even just looking at, the cinematography, how it's shot whenever Azazel is kind of in that first person, and how they change the techniques and how it looks. Like, it's so good. And that shocks me. That shocks me. I don't know why it didn't do better. I mean, I think a lot of it comes down to, how the trailer is set up. I wish I would have rewatched the trailer, but, a lot of times that can make or break someone's interest right away. So perhaps that is if they just saw it as another, cop catches bad guy somehow keeps, instigating cop, and they're like, oh, we've seen that a million times. I don't want to see it. I like Denzel, but I'm not in the mood for that. But, I don't know. It was fun to see all the tags that this had on IMDb, because I think it had horror, it had cop, it had drama, it had thriller, I think it had mystery. It just had a long line of stuff. So it seems like it would appeal to a lot of people. But I don't know. If anyone is watching this and they're just like, oh, I've fallen, I like the podcast, never heard of the movie, I want to hear more about it, go watch it. Just go watch it. Stop, hit pause right now, go watch it. You won't regret it. It's a good ride. It's got, the connection between Hobbs and his brother in it is really interesting, and what happens to him, and just seeing how it affects Hobbs, and, him still pushing through just shows the strength of his character and everything else. But and how Mark described it, the idea of it, that anger or evil or anything else, how it's passed on. I think when I read it, it said how it can be passed off like a virus, or how evil can be contagious. And it's it also reminds me of kind of 28 Days Later, because that was the virus, that was the anger virus that went through blood and everything else, and how that affected everything. And I see some similarities there, just with, again, how this little thing can affect people, and how the evil can spread so easily.
And I think another thing that what killed this movie, it got released in the dumping grounds of January, and this is when Titanic was still just destroying things, just destroying movies. So
Yeah.
it probably got in, it was swamped by other movies and just got kind of lost in the shuffle of the time. And also, man, like 98, like let's see, since it came out so early, I'm just going to look at 1997 movies just to give us a vibe of where we were. So
Yeah,
19
I don't think there's anything that would have really like taken away from it, because if you look at the cast, I mean, what a great setup of people. You got Denzel Washington,
Dude,
you
he was
had
at his
John
peak.
Goodman.
He was at his peak,
Yeah,
right? He was huge.
absolutely. You have John Goodman, who's always great in whatever he's in. You have James Gandolfini, you have Donald Sutherland, and even Embeth Davidtz was doing a lot around the time too. Like you have a solid grouping of people. It seems like it would appeal out to a wide range.
So let's see. I'm gonna look. But before we, so I'm researching this. I want to ask you a question. What would you drink? Beck's, Guinness, Bass, Bud Ice, Bud Dry, or Budweiser?
Oh God!
And the reason I
Guinness.
ask is because James Gandolfini's character in this film, he's eating a turkey leg during a scene, which I adore. But he's in a bar and Denzel comes to talk to him in a scene that maybe could have been cut, but I like it. Where he's talking about being a cop, Denzel, and the detective, and how 99% could be good, and it's a long speech with John Goodman.
And do you like cream? Do you take stuff under the table, like stuff like that? Yeah, which definitely gives a nice little like kind of encompassing of his character when they delve into that. Like, how easily can you be corrupted? How easily do you give in or take for yourself? Which, yeah, now that we're talking about it, really gives a nice little stick to his character overall.
I mean, I'm going Guinness all day. What are you taking?
I'm not a big fan of Guinness. I tried Guinness, the dark beers don't do me. So Guinness, if there's a Guinness Blonde, I'll drink the Guinness Blonde. I don't know, man. I'd probably just stay with Budweiser.
Budweiser?
Yeah, I think it'd probably be me. Right. Given the choice of those, yeah, I'd probably just stick with that.
I love a good cold Guinness, man. They're only like 5% alcohol. Nice and
That's
nitro.
It?
Yeah, they go down. They're not that stouty. They're nitro. They go down really easy. You want to hear the best? I'm gonna tell you something pretentious. The best Guinness I ever had was in Belfast. And I went back there another time to go get the beer from the same place. And the bartenders remembered us. And I had to get my Guinness.
Oh, nice. There you go.
Pretentious, but I love it.
Now, did they remember you with good memories, or did you just like get completely blasted and like break a window?
Oh, no, they threw me out. What?
Like, it's the American. Get him out of here.
But yeah, so like at the time, like Good Will Hunting came out, which was still hitting hard. Scream 2, which was a blockbuster. Then they had... Titanic was crushing people. Tomorrow Never Dies, as good as it gets, was still running hard in theaters. So I think, Postman flopped, but I think just right when it came around there, theaters were packed. I think there were other movies people were watching.
Just got looked over.
And it kind of sucks that I got dumped in January, because that's the kind of dumping ground. So the studio must not have had too much faith in this movie, which is odd considering it's a Denzel picture, and he draws.
Yeah, I don't know. You know what would be interesting? Did you hear about the other cut of the movie that a fan made?
No, what?
So I was looking at this. There is, I think it's on YouTube, but there's a fan cut version of this movie that's just entitled Azazel, and they cut out all of the narration.
Oh.
So all of Denzel's narration. So at the very beginning, he's just running through. All the music is going along, and then he dies, and then it goes through everything else. So all the little hints and things going in, and the perspectives and what's going on is not there. So it almost makes it an entirely different movie. So let's say, how do you think it would do now if like that version was released back in theaters? Do you think that would draw a crowd?
Man, I just think R-rated movies right now that are original properties, they just don't last long.
Yeah.
These movies don't hit. I think it would be more appreciated, more sophisticated. I guess if you're talking about this movie, okay. What would that movie do? So it did $25 million back then. And nowadays when it comes out, it's Denzel, so it would open to, let's see, it would open to 16 million opening.
Like, now it's vintage Denzel. There's that throwback Denzel. So people are going to be like, ooh, this is something that, it's young man Denzel. I'll go watch women would go watch it just for that.
I was thinking if it was now, they made it now and released it.
Yeah, let's say they're like, oh, we found this, or even if you think they just completely remade the whole movie and recast it, do you think it would draw more of a crowd today than it did back then? Yeah. I mean, everything's getting remade now.
Yeah, I think it would, because it's a great idea. It's a good idea.
Get Jordan Peele after Candyman is done, hop in on Fallen, redo Fallen.
Oh my gosh, that would be amazing.
But then you got to find the perfect
Jonathan Majors. So Jonathan Majors, he was in The Five Bloods, and he's in The Last Black Man in San Francisco. He's really good.
Yeah?
Yeah. But you know what's interesting? Ebert, when he was talking about this movie, he said he wishes that someone other than Denzel would have been cast, because Denzel has this inherent decency to him. He said that during the noirish scenes, he wanted someone a little bit more rough around the edges, someone a little more Harry Lime, a little more noir.
Like someone that could have been corrupted or could have been swayed a little bit?
I just think who has more of who seems less good, I guess, or more, they can put,
okay.
So, I think Lawrence Fishburne could have crushed it. And if you just think about Keanu Reeves smoking the cigarette and then blowing it into the spider and welcome to my world. Something like that. Fishburne, I think, could have been really solid in the... Listen, I love Denzel. I wouldn't replace him. I wouldn't. Mm-hmm. This is more of a hypothetical. Yeah. But I think Lawrence Fishburne, I think he can pull off that noir-esque vibe. That
I definitely think he could.
And I'm on the case, and I got shook. A dame walked into my room. I think he could really crush that.
I think it'd be good. I think that with everything that goes into the movie they talk about, and just the kind of going back to their people that are put here to battle these demons, and they are just these good people, these inherent, just there's nothing, wrong, bad about them.
Well,
they're on a straight line. They can't be. Yeah.
But he's all about the work. He's about the work.
He's about the work and the family first, and he's taking care of his brother and his nephew. And that was kind of a throwaway thing that that his brother asked him, if it wasn't for me and the kid, do you think that? And he's like, if she loved me, she would have stayed. And that's all they said about it. But, it is that also, kind of, it makes you wonder, was that the only thing? Was he too dedicated to the job? Was he too dedicated to his brother and taking care of him, and then she didn't feel there was any room left for her? Was there something else? Ooh, do you think his wife was ever possessed by Azazel?
Well, Azazel had just learned about him. Oh my gosh, that'd be interesting. That's a long game right there.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Man, so Azazel, in the beginning, he has a discussion with Donald Sutherland where he said, this is your 6th, and then he says 8th.
Yeah.
So that was about killers?
That was my guess, because Reese had killed, I can't remember the number of people he had killed, but from right off the bat, this was a bad dude, everyone wanted him dead, so immediately you're serial killer. And for that, that must have been the big cases that he brought in and that he worked on and was able to catch. So again, that works into the whole this is the good guy, he's gonna get the bad guy, element of it.
I like Donald Sutherland in this movie. I like that they set him up a little bit of a red herring too, to think that he's the bad boss, but he was always a good boss.
Do you think? Because when I was watching it, it always came to my mind. Do you think that Azazel ever went into the lieutenant, into Donald Sutherland?
That's a great question, and I've never pondered that.
Because every time I was looking for those little ticks or anything, how he'd said something. I honestly think probably not.
Because Azazel,
I don't think he ever did.
I think you're right, because Azazel, when he takes over somebody, or when the creature takes over somebody, it physically manifests itself. The body language, the singing, the cockiness, it just becomes a jerk. So you don't really witness that in this. You don't witness the same motions. And I don't think Azazel is really a subtle thing. It's a boisterous.
Unless here's the thing. So they were talking about whenever he goes into different beings, he becomes that person. He has all their memories. He keeps their memories and everything they know when he passes on. So if he goes into that person and becomes that person, has their memories, he's going to know how that person acts. He's going to know how that person speaks and everything. So he's the perfect mimic, which is why I think near the end, spoiler alert, anyone who hasn't seen it, pause it now, that John Goodman was able to kind of fool him at the end there, that he was able to play that role of his partner and fool arguably one of the people that knew him best. So I was, again, looking back, I was always thinking that maybe he hopped into Donald Sutherland, but I really don't think it is, based off of, when Azazel was in the precinct and hopping from person to person doing all these things, that was the little seed planted that it could be anyone. It could be anyone here. And that would get it into Hobbs' head that he really can't trust anyone. So anytime the lieutenant is just doing his job